Downsizing can be overwhelming at any point of your life. For example, say you're an adult child trying to help a parent through transition, or say an empty nester who's trying to downsize. Even relocating can cause a few nagging needs, but our next guest can help. Founder of the Transition Squad, Viraf Baliwalla, joins me now. Viraf, like I told you, where were you a few years ago? This is a perfect idea, and you say that you hear that, where were you,
Thank
often.
You, yeah. Everybody says, where were you when? It could be 6 months ago or whatever, but we were around, just maybe you didn't know about us, that's all.
Well, you know, joking aside, we're glad that you're here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to our show. And I've kind of gave an overview a little bit, but explain what your company is able to do and how you're able to help people.
So we are a downsizing company. We help seniors downsize. We work with the families that are having a parent transition. You said you've gone through this recently.
Yes.
So you know it can be a very traumatic time. Lots of emotions and very difficult, and you're dealing with sentimental stuff and everything else. And one of the biggest things that, whether it's the senior themselves or the family, is what do I do with all the stuff? Right? Because that's one of the biggest challenges, the physical challenges that they have. And so what we do, we're a project manager. We come in, we'll pull everything out of the cupboards, we'll photograph it all, we'll make an inventory, we'll auction it off online. I have my auctioneer's license, and so we'll auction it off online through our own platform, and we basically try to make the whole process very easy for the customer. We try to find a good home for their belongings, because it's not just stuff, it's their lives, it's their memories, right? And we try to maximize the selling price for them.
Well,
So,
I always use my parents as an example, but that's kind of what I brought up. My parents went through this, and they had to go through a regular auction, and it just made them sick. Some of the things that they thought were of value ended up not being. And I know you've kind of taken another step to help people who are trying to sell, to make sure that they do get top dollar. Explain what you're able to do.
So there's two facets to the problem here. First of all, many of the auctioneers, they run what they call an absolute auction, which means that there's no minimum bids, right? And so then you get a lot of the people who are dealers and flippers and things like that, and they'll come in and they'll pay pennies on the dollar, and if the right people aren't there at that time, then the bid pricing really isn't going to go up very high, and so the customer is going to end up having to sell because it's an absolute auction. We don't believe in that. We believe in setting a fair market price. Let's do it a little bit aggressive to kind of prompt the bidding, but at the end of the day, most of our clients tell us, if I can't get at least this much for it, I would rather donate it to somebody in need. And so we try to find a good home for somebody that wants it, that's willing to pay a fair price, and then it's a win-win for both buyer and seller.
And you're taking the company even a step further with some exciting news that have just happened this week.
Absolutely. This week we've just signed up with a company called Align Right Realty. They wanted to start up an online auction division for real estate itself. And so I'm now also a licensed real estate agent, and we can do the whole package deal for them. They're the fastest growing real estate company, as far as I know, in Florida. And the fact that they want to do this with us is really, really, you know, a big thing for us, right?
You know, I'm curious. We kind of joked at the top that people always say, where were you when? But what about the feedback that you get after the fact, after you're able to help a family? What's the reaction?
Well, a lot of times it's really great. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, you get people who, well, I thought it was worth more. And, you know, the reality is the market will dictate what the value of it is. If we start off with a fair enough number, then, you know, it can only go up. And if not, well, we only charge you for the things that we sell anyways. And so the stuff stays in your home. We don't pack it up and move it to an auction house, which, you know, many of the auctioneers do. And this way you're not paying the cost of packing and transportation, etc. So it just makes the whole thing more economical too. So from that standpoint, at least they save a lot of money, and then they can generate as much as, you know, as much as the market will bear.
Well, I love how you describe yourself as a project manager, if you will, because there does need to be a project manager when you're dealing with this. And right now is a perfect time to call. I know you've got a special offer for our viewers.
Absolutely. So if anybody calls within the next week after seeing this episode, and they book a time for us to come in. Now, they don't have to book it in the next week or whatever. They can even book it 6 months out. But as long as they're registered that, hey, we saw you on this show, then we're going to give them 20% off of the photography fees that you know, they would be paying. Which,
well, thank you so much for coming in and talking about your company. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.